How does within one religion things just break off so much if it is in fact one religion? And then where do you fall?
I'm not sure. If getting to heaven is a good thing, why is death so scary? So here's the good news. Anyone who contributes to life on earth is serving God's purpose. They don't even realize it. So here's a shocker. A human being needs to be needed far more than he needs to be loved.
What do you believe the point of all this is then?
The point of all of this, according to religion, is you might mess up and go to hell.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much.
How did you get started on going so public and deciding to speak publicly like you are?
Well, if I go back to teenage years, I listened to some of the rabbis, Chabad, speaking Chabad philosophy in English. That was new. Mm-hmm. And they did such a good job. I thought, I got to do this.
Yeah, you just felt called?
Hmm?
You just felt called to do it?
Yeah.
I think that's how the best things tend to come, is when it's passionate and authentic. And that's what the clips that I have watched from you, it seemed like it came from an authentic place. And I mean, granted, I just met you, but it doesn't seem like you hold back from saying perhaps direct beliefs or direct philosophies, if you will. And I just prefer to handle things like that. And I am, I was born from a Catholic family, Italian American. I know a little. Let's just assume, because it's true, I don't know much about the Judaism and whatnot. So I'm just fascinated in learning more about your beliefs personally. And I'm sure there's different sects, right, in regard to like how expansive is the variousness of beliefs in the culture and the religion of Judaism.
They vary greatly in attitude, not in action. We do the same things. We follow the same commandments. We observe the same Sabbath and we eat the same kosher food. But, the reasoning, the motivation, the understanding varies greatly.
Yeah, that's made me more curious, because I was raised Catholic, but I have a very eclectic viewpoint, I think. I'm not one way or the other. I have certain beliefs which we can get into, but the vastness of religion in general always makes me think even harder on it and want to look in different directions just to see what resonates and see what makes sense to me personally, because I think a lot of it is feeling in many of the ways, at least the way I view it. But then when you even consolidate it to one religion, it's fascinating how that even branches off. So how does that happen? How does within one religion things just break off so much if it is in fact one religion? And then where do you fall?
I'm not sure. It's like the emphasis is on getting to know God, which is not the case with most religions. In most religions, you don't ask questions. You do what you're told, behave, be a good boy, you go to heaven. Judaism says you don't want to go to heaven. You want to bring God down to earth. That's why God created the world, not to get you off earth and away to heaven. So it's a completely different approach. In a sense, we can't even call Judaism a religion. Religions branched out of Judaism.
Okay.
But all religions, it seems, are looking for some spiritual benefit, growth, blessing, something we get from God, and usually it's after you die.
And so you're bringing it to our life now, which is the benefit. I mean, I guess that's the epitome of getting a reason to live a better life if you're bringing it here.
Well, understanding that that's what God is after. He doesn't want us in heaven.
No, he doesn't want us there?
No.
So does he kick us out? What does that mean?
Heaven is fine. Heaven doesn't need any attention.
That's true. That's okay.
Right? Earth needs a lot of help.
Yes, agreed.
So this is where we make a difference. This is what God wants us to accomplish. Make the world as heavenly as heaven.
And does he explain how to do that?
Oh, yeah.
And what are like the core values and the core traditions?
All the commandments.
Yeah.
In other words, make life on earth godly. A godly way of living. And that brings God into his creation.
And where his creation. Okay, that's a different take. I honestly, it's so simplified, but I've never understood that. Because I feel like a lot of the Catholics and Christians that I've spoken to, I'm not putting them all in a box at all, so don't get insulted by that. It's always like, I can't wait to get out of here to get to the kingdom. Is exactly as you said. That's I never noticed that with Judaism, and is that across the board, or is that kind of split up?
That is core Judaism.
Okay.
And it's actually a little scary. If you think there's a better place than here, are you going to be very devoted to making here better?
Unless they tell you if you don't act a certain way, you won't get there. It just seems fear-based, which I don't resonate with at all.
And then the sooner you get out of here, the better. That's not a healthy attitude.
No, it's not a healthy attitude, but I think if you're doing it from a fear-based attitude, that's not healthy. But if you're doing it from, the desire to follow commandments and be good, que sera, sera, it's good for you. But again, the fear-based attitude, which I've heard with a lot of religions, I'm like, I question back, not in a way of nonconformity. I'm just like, where's it coming from? Is that coming from the real place of authenticity that is going to get you to the quote-unquote kingdom of heaven?
Getting to the kingdom of heaven is not an accomplishment because you haven't changed anything. You just went to a better place. But what is it that God wants? God creates you on earth so that you can get to heaven? That's where he wants you in heaven? Why doesn't he just put you in heaven?
Yeah, it's true. What is the point of all this then? So what do you believe the point of all this is then?
The point of all of this, according to religion, is you might mess up and go to hell.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much.
Yeah, that seems like a shite deal.
Yes.
So it's according to religion, yes, that's what I don't resonate with. It doesn't make sense to me whether it's real or not. So then what do you believe? Like, why are we here? If we're supposed to be here and bring God here, say we accomplish that, then what?
Well, let's take it in a completely different direction. If getting to heaven is a good thing, why is death so scary?
Please continue with that thought, because I like that. Unless that was rhetorical, or you're asking me.
Rhetorical.
Okay, good. I was giving you a pause there.
But you can give me your reaction.
Yeah. That was for the YouTube. Anyone watching on YouTube, if you want to see the reaction. No, but that's true. Please continue on.
If going to heaven is the goal, then being on earth is not really exciting, inspiring, necessary, justified. So why are we so against dying?
The unknown, and even with that core belief, a lot of people just want to know for sure, want the proof, if you will. So if you don't have the faith, then it's scary.
So we're really in a very uncomfortable place. I don't like to be here, but I'm afraid to go anyplace else.
Yeah, so what the heck do you go? You just shit your pants every time you live? Like, what do you do?
Suffer silently?
Yeah, so a lot of people are doing that, unfortunately. But I think the big core, from what I've come to understand, not for everyone, it's just the unknown. I think people inherently, death aside, just fear the unknown. They want to know. And I personally have more fun in life not knowing and just letting things fall, like this conversation, like you mentioned. I found comfort in that, even though I feel an innate, you feel a little bit of nerves. That's natural. But I think people want to know because by not knowing, that equates to insecurity and you're not safe. And if we don't know what's going to happen after, then that scares people.
And why would God do this to us?
To learn.
Assuming he's a nice guy.
Assuming he's a guy.
Yeah, whatever. But why would he do this to us?
Right.
See, this is the one thing. Religion never answers the original question.
As we know it, unless those records were destroyed a long time ago.
The original question is, why am I here? Mm-hmm. All you're telling me is where I should go. Mm. Where am I starting from? Why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? So we're born into trouble, and we have to get ourselves out of trouble. Why be born into trouble? Mm. Nobody answers the question.
But what if some people just don't perceive it as trouble? Then we're just born into this existence.
And they like it.
Yes.
Well, good for them.
How do they do that? How do they do that? Well, I mean, I that is the age-old question. I do find, I launched this podcast in 2020. I feel like I have noticed some kind of trend of people maybe asking that question more than at least my generation.
Yes.
Like back in the day, like a day that neither of us were alive. It was more existential. We asked this question: Who am I? Why am I here? Church. It was before, I guess, all this madness to technology, you know, we had more philosophical thoughts. And now I am noticing people asking the question that you just proposed.
Yes, I think what happened is back in the 40s and 50s, people were asking. Couldn't come up with an answer, so they went into the 60s. There are no answers. Enjoy, try it, you'll like it, maybe, experiment. That didn't work either, so in the 70s, they became really cynical. There is no answer, there is no reason, there is no purpose, let's just make money. And now we're back to the question.
We are back. I do feel that. And I think that's important. You know, it kind of I think that question, whether you get an answer to it or not, I think is important to contemplate. I think regardless, it'd be nice to get an answer for once. It'd be nice to get an answer. But the more I continue on, I'm like, I don't think it's about the answer, because we're going to find out one way or another whether we're conscious or not conscious, and we'll tap into that philosophy next. But I think it's, as they say, the age-old cliche, it's about the journey, right? So I think the journey to me equates to the contemplation, and I think the sweet spot is the contemplation. And maybe the answer is within the contemplation of what we feel, and that answer is therefore eclectic and unique to each of us, right?
We've tried that many times.
And what do you think?
We can't do that. We can't be on a treadmill. We got to know where we're going. So even 10-year-olds, not philosophers, 10-year-olds are saying, I didn't ask to be born. What do you want from me? I'm barely hanging in there. You know, I'm born against my will, and now you're going to give me tasks? I got to clean my room? I didn't ask for a room. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for any of this. Why is it my problem?
And what do you think? And have you found any kind of inner answer at all?
Yes.
What do you got for me? Come on. What are you holding out for me? You waiting for the end? Wait till the end. We'll get the answer to all this.
Drama here.
Yeah.
Drum roll.
You know what you're doing.
If you can't answer that question, you don't understand God. You don't understand why you're here. You don't understand your relationship with God. It's not easy to live that way. If I don't know why I'm here, how can I enjoy the journey? If I don't know where I'm going, why I'm going, how do I know that I'm getting there?
Yes.
Unless I'm not getting anywhere, I'm just on a treadmill. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Can't be.
And that leans into purpose and meaning.
Yeah. So it's not just I don't like it. It doesn't add up. It doesn't justify itself. And if it doesn't make sense, eventually we suffer from the lack of rhyme and reason. The brain wants to know. And that's a good thing. So why are we born? Why has anybody ever been born? Well, if the Torah, the Bible, is supposed to be God's answer, that would be the first question answered, wouldn't it be?
You'd think.
Never mind, thou shalt not murder. Why am I here? And why is this guy I'm trying to murder? Why is he here?
Fair, okay. That's touche.
He's got to go. I mean, like...
He's the guy who's asking the question's got to go. That's the problem.
So right in the beginning, God says to Adam, it's not good to be alone. That is so revealing. God is saying, I've been around forever, but I'm creating you because it's not good to be alone. God wants a relationship. God wants a partnership. Because alone may be perfect, but what's good about being perfect? In fact, perfect is kind of a dead end. You're perfect, and that's it.
And now what?
Now what? Nothing. You're perfect.
You're perfect.
What are your plans? None.
I'm perfect.
What's new? Nothing.
I'm perfect. No, that's fair. Or I feel like I feel like people are chasing perfection.
Thinking that that's
attainable.
Or good.
Or good.
And when you become perfect, hypothetically, then you realize Why? I have everything. So, why? If there's no one to share it with, there's nothing good about it. It's very convenient, practical, pragmatic to be perfect. But why? Where's the goodness? So God created us to be his partners in making the physical world more godly than heaven, so that God can be present on earth more comfortably than he is in heaven. That's a job.
Yeah, I don't know if it pays well, but
It's
it's
ambitious,
definitely a job, yeah.
It's ambitious. We've been working on it since creation. We've made some progress. At least people are asking. We want to know, what are we here for? I had a joke about the guy who says, as I'm getting older, I think about the hereafter a lot. So really, you're becoming philosophical? He says, no. I open the refrigerator and I wonder, what am I here after? Can't remember why.
Nice. It just comes to you, huh? It just comes to you.
I'm at that age.
Yeah. How old are you?
78.
Oh, you look great.
So you walk into a room and say, what did I come here for? What was I doing?
That's our existence in a joke.
Yeah. So people are asking, and that's a good sign. People are not content with affluence. For many years, it was, you got to make it. If you make it, then you've made it. And now everybody has made it. And they're asking themselves, what? And their kids are asking. So it's not academic anymore. You need an answer or your kids are in trouble.
So how do you see that answer then?
There's so much knowledge. I mean, we've been studying the Torah, all the great sages of history, for at least 3,000 years. Have we come up with anything yet?
No, not that I've seen. That's why I got you here, baby.
So there is an accumulated body of wisdom where we get to know God pretty well. That he is mysterious, he doesn't want to be. What's the point? He creates us and then doesn't let us know who he is? What would that be for? So let's talk a little bit about what is life, or what is illness. This is a really good. A guy calls a doctor and says, "Doc, I woke up this morning, my legs, they don't work." The first thing the doctor should ask is, you have any place you need to go? Because if you don't, then fine. You got no place to go and your legs won't take you there. So, great. Guy calls and says, I can't hear. I'm going deaf. Anything you need to hear? No? Then what's the problem? So we come up with a new definition to illness. What do you consider an illness? You can't jump over tall buildings like Superman. So it's not an illness. You can't catch up to a speeding bullet. It's not an illness. You have no place to go and your legs won't take you? Not an illness. Do what you can, what you can't, you can't. What's the difference? So the whole point is, there is something I am supposed to accomplish. Anything that stops me, prevents me from accomplishing, is an illness. But if I have nothing to accomplish, I've got no appointment to keep, so your legs won't go, so it's a problem. The definition of illness and health has to do with purpose. Do you have something you're supposed to achieve? No? Then whatever. If you can walk, walk. You can't, you can't. If you can breathe, fine. If you can't, it's okay. Now that is a serious definition because we have no other. We really, The world of medicine has no definition for health. We know a symptom when we see it, but who's a healthy person?
I know we're looking at it philosophically, but what about just regular old illnesses when you're literally sick, as opposed to any old illness, whether it's cancer, this, that, or the other?
So what's wrong? So you're not going to live long? Do you need to live? Something you haven't accomplished yet?
But what if someone has cancer and they haven't finished what they think they have to finish?
Right. So they have something they think they need to finish. They have a purpose, and this is getting in the way. But if you don't think there's a real purpose,
then it's moot. So find the purpose. I think, I mean, it's like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. That keeps everyone going. If you don't have that, you're not going to keep going in the most extreme cases in that book. I wonder what it is that people are struggling to find purpose. I feel like a lot of people may even have the purpose in their hand. They're not awake to it, and they're seeking too far for something that's right in front of them. Is it just a sign of the times, or just human nature throughout history to not be able to identify what their purpose is?
What we're really looking for is the purpose.
Right.
Frankl says a purpose is good enough to keep you alive. But if I were to ask him, like, wow, what a great theory. This is really brilliant. What is the purpose? He would say, why are you asking me? Ask a rabbi. I'm a therapist, right? So if you want to know the purpose of life, that's a theological question. You have to ask God, what'd you put me here for? If I just make up a purpose, it's kind of weak. I changed my mind. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Nah. Now what? I don't know. I'll find a different purpose. That's not a purpose. That's just a plan. Purpose means there was something that needed to happen before you were born, and you were born to that purpose.
Okay, that's a little more layered.
You can't make up a purpose. Either you were created with a purpose or there isn't.
So you're saying is that a blanketed purpose for all human beings? Or you're saying individual purpose that has been planned?
Both.
Okay.
Both. All human beings have a common mission. Each person individually does it in a uniquely original fashion.
And are we sticking to that first thought that you said that God's plan is to bring God to earth? Okay, so that's the foundation.
So here's the good news. Anyone who contributes to life on earth is serving God's purpose. They don't even realize it. If you're manufacturing cars, you're serving God's purpose because cars make life a little more livable, enjoyable, doable.
Unless you have nowhere to go.
Unless you have nowhere to go, and then you need a really fast car.
To get nowhere faster.
Because at least get there fast. You produce toothbrushes, you're serving God. So people complain, I have a boring job at assembly line and it's just soul deadening. No. You're spending most of your day serving God. But we don't know it. We don't realize it. Like people say, our mission is to make this world better. Nice. Whose world is it? And who most appreciates your efforts at making it better? Not the Creator? To put it even more dramatically, if tomorrow the world ends, just ends, would it be a tragedy? Like to whom?
Yeah, as I was saying, who's left to answer? The reptiles?
There'll be nothing. It would be a tragedy only to the Creator. He has the biggest investment in this creation. And we're running around thinking, what can I get out of this? You're not the main character here. God has a huge investment. Want to know what He wants?
He wants to come to earth.
Ask Him. He'll tell you.
How does that work?
all the people in the Bible who spoke to God, they must have asked. Adam and Eve, they must have, what? Don't eat the apple. What, that's it?
So it was too obvious.
Yeah. And they were brilliant, by the way. They knew everything. We've lost information. We're not getting smarter.
No.
So they understood. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, why were they great? Because they knew what God wanted of them. Moses revealed it to everybody. So we're basically here to turn the world into a Garden of Eden, not stay in the Garden of Eden.
But then if you peel that back even more, if you have heaven, God created, that whole wonderful place. Maybe I missed you answering it earlier, but it kind of falls back to the whole question of why I'm here, of course, but why, in your opinion, would God even create this if he has heaven? Like, why would he create this project? Is that still the same question we've been discussing?
That proves the point. He has heaven, and he still creates earth. Obviously, heaven doesn't do it.
Oh, that's a bummer. We're all looking forward to going there. Well, not everyone, but...
Exactly right. So the order of things, in the beginning, God created heaven, wasn't content, and he created earth. And then he didn't create anything else. So earth is all the focus.
So we think. It might be, there's a lot going on in the galaxy,
But God doesn't talk about that. As far as God is concerned, this is it. Here's where it all happens. What is heaven? When you die, you go to heaven, if you're a good little boy. What that means is you were given a certain amount of years to achieve a certain amount of goodness, making the world, right? So you've served God in some way, to some degree. You ran out of time. Your soul goes back to heaven, kind of refreshes, and if there's more for that soul to do, you're born again.
Is it across the board reincarnation?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've all been
I believe that. I'm just saying I wasn't sure. I know Christianity doesn't believe that.
I know it for a fact because I was born tired.
You didn't get much rest up there? They brought you right back?
It's not like this is new. Again.
I thought you were just comfortable.
Anyway, so literally, heaven is a holding pattern. Every soul in heaven wants to come back to earth. Because in heaven, you're taken care of. Here, you serve God. And we'd much rather serve than be served. That is so true of the human condition. We'd much rather serve than be served. And yet, we're told by Hollywood and by, get what you want. Take care of yourself. Obey your thirst. Remember that commercial?
Yeah. I was thinking about Sprite today. Sprite, right? 7-Up or Sprite? One or the other. Yeah.
That is so bad.
Yeah, thirst is, yeah.
Indulge yourself. Take care of yourself. Focus on yourself. Love yourself. It's making us really sick.
Well, I think service is kind of synonymous with purpose and meaning.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if you're serving other people, that gives you a purpose. It makes you feel useful. If you're just sitting there, take,
yeah.
It might be nice for a vacation, but...
So essentially, we are purposeful creatures. Not trees, not stones, we are purposeful. If I don't think I have something to accomplish, I can't stand being here.
Well, this is right on time because I'll make it quick, but I was talking, I'm not going to say names, but I was hearing a story about some man that is very, very wealthy, age-old story there, and he was just not in a good place. I think he's been saying some really negative things about his own life. And then my first thought, I wasn't talking to this man, I was talking to my friends. And I said, this guy I was told he has a lot of money, was, trust fund maybe, this, that, and the other. It's like, sounds like he just doesn't have he doesn't feel useful. He doesn't have meaning. He's not doing anything. He has all the money in the world, can go wherever he wants, can get whatever he can, yada, yada. But he's not serving anything. And my other friends like, he could donate money. He doesn't have to do the work if he doesn't want, but he can donate. Then, okay, at least you're giving this or that. It does come back to this necessity of purpose and usefulness.
So here's a shocker. A human being needs to be needed far more than he needs to be loved. And all we hear about is love, love, love. We got to love each other and everything will be great. No, we're going to love each other and then sit around saying, why are we here?
Yeah.
My love.
My love.
Why are we here? Love doesn't justify existence. A purpose justifies existence. Then you can love it.
Also, love can kind of go either way in many ways.
Oh, it can be dangerous. It can be deadly. It can be greedy. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my thought about, because you're saying earlier on we were talking about something, I guess, relating it to Christianity. If you don't do good here, you don't get in there. But where's the belief system in your culture and religion in regards to, and parlaying to reincarnation, about transcending, like in the idea of learning while we're here? So in this life we learn this, we go back up there, we recharge, but I still have more to learn, come back here and do the same thing over and over again to continually learn. So whereas outside of purpose and all that, like maybe it's all tied together, how much does the whole premise of we're here to learn and experience play into all that? Is that any part of the religion?
No. A person goes through a very painful experience and says, God is probably trying to teach me something. So don't do that.
He's not?
That is so cruel. He puts you through a horrible experience just to teach you a lesson. What are we doing? We're making God into such a monster. No, we're here to accomplish for him. We want to serve, not learn. Of course, you got to learn how to serve.
Yes, yeah.
Brainless is not good.
Not for most.
Yeah, but useful. Can't serve much if you're brainless. But the point is, what does he need from me? And if he needs nothing, I don't want to be here.
So has he spoke to you?
No, he doesn't have to speak to us individually. He made his will known. He wrote it all down. We've been studying it for 3,000 years. Where's our wisdom? What are we hiding here? So I think the message to the world today is stop using God, start serving God.
And kind of stop overthinking it too, because I love what you said earlier, especially about the cars, the toothbrushes. I think when people are searching, the general people, even myself when I was younger, like this purpose feels so heavy, this legacy, usefulness. I feel like it doesn't always have to be this grand thing. We've been sold kind of what you said, but it has to be this glamorous, shiny object. But I've always said and thought, it's just kind of the way we live our life and the way we serve others and the way we treat our community and the people in our life. But also, yeah, if the job's eating at your soul, that's different. I guess I understand flipping the script and being like, yeah, no, I'm doing this and I am serving. So it can be smaller, if you will. But at the same time, if your job is just draining you, I feel like that's a sign to listen to, that you're not fulfilling your purpose, even if you are being purposeful in the way you were saying it. So it's kind of a little bit of a yin and yang there.
Good point. If I'm producing toothbrushes and I know that is in the service of God, and yet I feel driven to something more, oh, for sure, go for it. You want to serve better? You want to serve greater? Fine. But don't dismiss what you're doing as a waste of time or meaningless. If you're not really capable of doing anything more than that, your life is fine. You're serving God to the maximum of your ability, which is perfect. No regrets.
What does the Torah say in regards to the afterlife outside of everything you said? Like, does it describe anything about the dying process or that transitionary phase or what it's like over there, anything specific, or is it kind of brush over it?
Yeah, there is a very widespread assumption that life is so temporary, so fleeting. Before you know it, it's over. Death is forever.
How?
If you're not depressed by that alone...
I feel pretty good about that, to be honest. It didn't depress me.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
It can't be. life is everything. Death is nothing.
Like being dead or the process? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, being dead.
Okay.
What's that for? So
Come
that's
back.
forever.
Well, forever freaks me out. But the question is, are we going to be even aware of forever? Like, we're aware of forever in these human meat suits, but when the time comes to cross over, if you will, is that even a concept?
Well, they're making it even worse.
You are.
Death is so empty, you won't even know that you're dead.
Yeah.
So what's the point of that?
I hope you got an answer for me.
Yeah, death is temporary. Life is forever. Only that makes sense.
So you're looking at death as just that small little blimp of transitionary phase? The process?
Because when you think about it, life can't die. And I think that's a pretty safe assumption. Death can't live, life can't die. They're mutually exclusive. You cannot kill life.
Well, you can be living and then die.
You
So that's
can't
different.
dry water.
I've tried.
Yeah. So the soul, which is a living thing, it can't die. What is it, oxymoron? Can life die? Can you have a dead ghost?
No, okay. See, I see what you're saying. Okay, so okay. For a second, I was like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?"
I know a ghost who died.
Unless, yeah, I mean, I guess there's the next existential question. Maybe it wouldn't be the word dying, but then my thought is, maybe we've been told this story of this happens and that, but maybe there's still a veil beyond that we just haven't been told, that we don't know about. Maybe there's even more continuation beyond the soul, and maybe the soul does die temporarily, or that has that process rather. And then what's after that, if there is even that? We know so much, but we've still been studying for 3,000 years, so it's like we don't know everything based on what we've been given. So just what if there's just more puzzle pieces? We're working with what we got. What you said, we're working with what we got.
That's right.
I felt it coming. So yes, we're working with what we got. We're still figuring it out, and that's the magic behind it at the same time.
Yep.
I still think that's the magic behind it. It's kind of exciting, terrifyingly exciting.
It's exciting because we know there's an answer.
We hope.
It won't be exciting if there's no answer.
Yeah. What if there's no answer? What if we were just floating around and there's just, that would suck.
Yeah. Then life becomes unbearable.
Again, I think it goes back to that contemplation, and there's like lessons within the contemplation aspect. I think it's all right there, and I think the answers, and maybe it's not a treadmill like you said, but it has to come down at some point to just trusting what's going on here inside. Is that not all of it? Most of it? Some of it? A little bit of it? Like, where does that come into play? What is the balance of studying the books and then listening to yourself?
To align yourself to what is really true.
Yet we don't know what's really true. Sometimes we feel what's true. I just feel like a lot of people, there's so many different beliefs out there, so many different experiences that pull me one way and pull me in the other, and just kind of I end up somewhere in the middle. But at some point, I feel like there's got to be some people that know more than others.
Yeah.
But all these people that are saying that do know a lot more, but we don't believe them because they sound crazy. There's maybe some people just know the truth. But why doesn't everyone know the truth?
There's the rub. Why don't we all know the truth?
We're back to where we started.
No, because we can.
You believe it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, is the Bible the truth?
Maybe.
That's what it claims.
Yeah, I know.
If it's not the truth, then it's a lousy book.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a pretty good seller, but still, like,
because we assume it's the truth.
We assume, yeah, but that's the key word, assume.
Okay.
Do you know what they say about assume? I don't have to say it, do I?
No other book claims to be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unchallenged.
Right.
So life can't die. The soul that is a living thing, it's energy. Energy can't die. The body, on the other hand, was never really alive. It borrows life from the soul as long as the soul is in the body.
So the soul's the battery, kind of.
So what dies? The soul can't die. The body was never really alive. The only thing that dies is time. You ran out of time. You were given 80 years, 80 years are up. You were given 70 years, 70 years are up. So every person born is born with an expiration date. You're given an exact amount of time to live.
Before we come here, it's all set in stone.
Yes.
And that's what's expressed in the Torah.
So death means time up. That's it. So the soul goes back to where it came from. The body goes back to where it came from. Start all over. But you ran out the clock. That's what it is.
So what does it say about that with everything in between the lines, the in between? Like, is that destiny, or is it free? You believe free will, like 100% free will?
God breathes a soul into the body.
Right.
So you have a soul that's alive, you have a body that's not. Then at the end, from dust you are and to dust you return. Well, that's the body. Where does the soul return? Back to the world of souls. So here's what it's about. When the soul comes into the body, it doesn't happen instantaneously. It's a long process. At least 12 months. 9 months of pregnancy, but a couple of months before that where the soul is, I say, mentally and emotionally prepared to be born. It's told that it's going to be born. It's told what its life is going to be, what its mission is. And then there's conception. Dramatic event. Then there's the first 40 days of conception. It's a whole experience of its own. After 40 days, you enter a whole new stage for the next 3 months, first trimester. Then you get to the 5th month, which is, again, a milestone. The 7th month, because now you can be born and survive. Mm-hmm. And then the 9th month. And then birth. Shockingly traumatic event. So much so that you forget the 9 months you were in the womb. They were good months. The fetus is heavenly. And yet doesn't remember a thing once you're born, because the shock of birth erases that memory. And now you're born, and your life is a little tenuous. You're going to make it, you're going to make it. If you make it to a month, you're in. You're solid. A child that passes away before a month is, in a sense, a miscarriage. Didn't make it. Now you get stronger and more mature and so on, until 13 for a boy, 12 for a girl, and now you're a complete human being. A good merging of body and soul. Death is also a gradual process, comes in many, many stages. It's the reverse of birth. The first thing is you become aware that your time is up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a week before, months before the beginning of the year in which you're going to pass away, people have that premonition. They know it's over. Maybe not consciously, but just beneath. And they start wrapping up, tying up loose ends. They're closing down without realizing it. Then there's the moment of death. At the moment of death, the body is in shock because the soul has disconnected. Hasn't left completely, but it's no longer devoted to the body. Body goes into shock. Not a good experience. Then for the first 7 days after burial, the soul kind of peels itself away from the body. Painful for the soul, painful for the body. Up to 30 days, the soul is kind of disconnecting, detaching. Beyond that, a year. At the end of a year, the soul has basically made it to heaven, the body has gotten back to the earth, and they're both content to be where they are. But that year is a difficult one. Now imagine a soul comes to heaven. Where is heaven?
Around us.
It's not a spatial.
Right.
Doesn't take up space. Heaven means the soul is now experiencing the pleasures of a soul, not the pleasures of a body.
Okay.
There's a transition. For the soul to go from physical pleasure, body pleasure, to purely soul pleasure is not easy. To forget about one and get completely into the other, it's embarrassing.
Who's embarrassed?
The soul.
Okay.
Because the soul maintains its personality.
As we are here.
As we are.
Okay.
If you were a difficult, begrudging... Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, this guy was sitting at the mourning of his father with his friends, and he made a joke about his father. And he turns to me, he says, ooh, was that okay? Make fun of the dead? I said, did your father have a sense of humor? If he did, then he's laughing.
He's still okay.
And if he didn't, you're on your own.
It's gonna be a shitty party when you cross over.
So it's not like the soul, all souls go to heaven and become angels. No. The soul maintains its personality.
For up to a year?
No, forever.
But where does reincarnation come in when you're different?
Reincarnation means you're back where you left off. Just starting from scratch.
Different person, same essence and who I am, only just different life, different body.
Different accomplishments.
And all this that you just explained from the top, this is all written? Or is this, okay, this is all written?
Yes.
And where does that come from? I know you're saying God, but that's what he's messaged us down, and now we're listening to these guys that say they got a message from God and they wrote it down.
They've also had the experience. You know, people say, no one dead ever came back to talk. Oh, yes, they did. There's a lot of communication from souls that are dead.
To regular old people.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in that, but a lot of, for instance, like the Bible, I know acknowledges mediumship, but they say it's demonic and it's bad.
Well, there are demons, but we're not talking about that.
Right.
We're talking about a soul visiting his kid saying, you're in danger, run.
Right.
And they're in danger. It's true.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon.
So that was my, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm just trying to, because I remember I had this conversation, again, specific to the Bible and Christianity, about how it acknowledges, because every time I've had mediums on, I explore that side of things. And a lot of people with certain beliefs will knock that and say that's demonic. But from my understanding with the Bible in particular, it says, I think it says something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, don't play around with that because you could summon up the wrong thing, which I understand that as a warning, but that doesn't also eliminate the potentiality of it can be healing, it can be beautiful, you can get messages to say my dad in whatever way he wants to do it, and it can be good. It's just kind of like saying, hey, that could be, maybe it's not worth the squeeze kind of thing.
People who claim to be mediums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I can get a shitty accountant and he could be scamming me. So I have eyes in the back of my head no matter what I'm dealing with.
Right. So it's better off staying away from that.
Right.
But if your father comes to visit you
on your own,
what are you going to say? You're a demon?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that too. Okay.
So the distance between life with the soul, or when the soul leaves the body, it's not that great a distance. It's just a shift in pleasure. The pleasure of the body, pleasure of the soul.
It's a thin veil. So we're kind of talking, if we had to label it as scientific, because we said heaven's not spatial. It's just like a radio wave, where it's like a tapping, like a different frequency, you believe?
Different frequency.
Switch to the dial, but it's like all right here?
Yeah. But the soul in heaven knows what's happening to his children, grandchildren. They have an investment. They care. You're my future. You're my legacy. So they care. They hear. They see. And probably they do something to help. Mm-hmm. Pray for you or whatever. But they're not indifferent. You haven't lost them. A mother can be a mother even from far away. Doesn't have to be hands-on. Mm-hmm. So you never lose your mother. A mother never quits. In fact, what do all mothers in heaven sit around and talk about?
Desperate Housewives? I have no
Their
idea.
children.
That too.
Of course. Hey, well, look, that's my kid. They're all doing that. Because a mother remains a mother. Right? So, the process of death is a reverse of the process of birth. Number of stages, gradual, so it doesn't completely devastate us, although it's pretty shocking, both being born and... So dying is kind of a near-death experience, just as birth is.
And is it kind of even though there has parallels, is it almost the opposite in a sense of, because there is that point when your birth is so shocking, we have amnesia, but when you die, is it almost like more an awakening where you kind of have a remembrance of maybe of being on that other side? Is there a transitionary phase of that?
Or you are reminded of everything you ever did.
And that goes back to past lives and everything?
Like your life flashes before your eyes?
Yeah. It just comes back to now it's all downloaded, and then what are we doing over there? Because I know there's like a temporary rest, or like what is there any description in the book that explains what the heck we're doing over there before we come back?
We're transcending is a good word. We're trying to detach from the physical pleasures to the pleasures of being a soul.
Right, and what are those pleasures in the spiritual world? Is it just eternal love?
The awareness of God, the understanding of God, all your mysteries, questions are answered. There are no mysteries in heaven.
And is it the Kabbalah that says it's kind of incomprehensible or something of the sort? Like what says something about the experience of God is just incomprehensible to us, so we can't even explain it? Am I making that up?
You would expect God to be incomprehensible because he's a creator. We are the creation. A painting does not know its painter. So we assume the same thing is true. But God wants to be known, so he makes himself known. Who's to stop him? So you can say we really shouldn't be able to know God, but if he wants us to, and he does, so he makes himself known, and that's why we call the event at Sinai revelation. God reveals himself.
Yeah, I know you're saying it's not mysterious, but there's a lot of people that don't believe in God. And what about those people? So we all going to the same, from your understanding, is regardless of what your beliefs are, you could be any team you want. Is everyone going to the same place, or is there a split up somewhere?
I think everyone believes in God. We just don't know what that is.
Even if you don't call it
I think
God.
most people say I don't believe in God, don't believe in religion.
Right, I wonder about that too. I mean, because I know some sane people. No, I'm not saying anyone else that's not sane. I came off wrong, but I know people that are atheists or agnostic, whatever those other terms are. I just don't believe in. I might be butchering the definitions of those two, but just don't believe in a God. They could have disdain towards religion because for plenty of reasons that I could understand for religion, because I think there's a separation.
Because it makes God sound really bad.
Yeah, it makes God sound really bad. I think you could just separate. Like, yeah, okay, we understand there's been some shitty stuff in religion that are abominable, whatever. But outside of that, it doesn't mean you can't still wither your way separate from that. But even the people that don't believe in God may not even have that opinion on religion, just don't believe there's just the rational brain is telling them, no, there's no creator. This is ridiculous. Show me, show me, show me. So where do those people fall in the mix of all this?
Well, first of all, show me is a very childish demand. Show me an electron.
Yeah, exactly. Show me an atom. Yeah, I mean, that's not, you can't see it. Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
100%.
In fact, there's more that we don't see that exists
Yes.
than what we do see.
Everything we don't see makes up everything.
That's right. All right. So here's the definition. We know that the universe didn't always exist. So it must have come from something that did always exist.
How does something come from nothing?
So whatever existed always existed. It didn't need to be created. Because if it needed to be created, well then you're just repeating the same. So the original substance, you want to call it a subatomic particle, that's okay. But whatever it is, it always existed. It did not need to be created.
Whether we can name it or not. It's just...
That's God.
Yeah. What was he doing this whole time?
So the question is, this original being is a subatomic particle or a conscious being? That's it. Those are the choices. So you want to call it a subatomic particle? Fine. That's your God. That is your God. We all come from a subatomic particle.
God's not, we're just creator, regardless if people look at God as this all my, like, I think it's creator and God, even they could be the same thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just like religion and beliefs, it can be convoluted in the way you expand upon that one word. You know what I mean?
So imagine an intelligent
It's another one.
subatomic particle.
Yeah, it's another one.
That's God.
Yeah, it's God. Yeah. Even though we've talked about it, I was like, okay, but why? What is this? I got to, you know what I mean? It's still, even with all these questions and the things you're answering, I was like, it's just, I think it's wildly exciting. I find it wildly exciting.
Because it's so simple and sounds true.
Is it simple?
Something created the world.
Yeah, that's simple. I thought.
Without knowing it.
You just spontaneously bursted.
Why all of a sudden?
Why all of a sudden? Yeah, exactly. That's another question, though.
Right. If there was a subatomic particle forever, why did it explode when it exploded?
God got bored.
Oh, see? You're back to God.
Whatever this thing was, got bored.
Whatever this thing was, something internal, there was only that, right?
Yeah, but then if you go within that, who knows how big that world was? And it's like,
So something within that being, because there's no other being. See, the theory of evolution is a little messed up. Because for the theory to work, you have to have two things at the beginning.
Yeah.
So not only one God, you have to have two gods. Two gods who collided, set off an explosion, Big Bang. And that's how we came to be. So first of all, two gods.
But yeah, but what if you go further back? Like, so before the universe didn't exist, this is intelligent being, God, creator, yada. Where'd that come from?
It didn't come.
It's just the beginning and the end.
Yes, it's eternal. It's eternal. Always was, always will be.
Oh, man.
So then, why did he create the world? Not because something collided with him. There was only him. So it must have been internally motivated. That's called will.
Therefore, we are all internally motivated, all from that one
Because
little...
we're created in his image. It's just so simple that it's...
So how do we take all that and just relax? How do we live this life and just relax?
The only way to relax is to know that God created the world purposefully. Every human being is created as a necessity. There is no unneeded or purposeless human being. All 8 billion of us. Because that's what it takes to make the world godly. Not only does he have a purpose, but he tells us his purpose. That's where the Bible comes in. Sooner or later, God got to tell us what he wants.
Yeah, what is he waiting for?
So he waited 2,000 years for us to grow up.
So you're saying now's the time?
3,000 years ago, God said, okay, now I'll tell you.
Okay.
Because you stopped killing each other.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like in the flood, right?
Yeah.
That people were just impossible. They weren't ready to learn.
And what's your thought on the flood? I'm going to say, I have no business barely talking to you about what we're talking about, let alone what I'm about to say. But I've come across, and not smart enough to reference a lot of it, but there seems to be, from my glance at this, that there's stories of the flood. That is the one story that seems to be consistent throughout. Like, that is the one thing that seems to be universal, right?
And Adam and Eve.
And Adam, you're right. So how does that work when all these different regions are saying a very similar story, but we're taking the word from one specific region when there seems to be a lot of similarities throughout? Is that a part of the idea that a lot of religions and beliefs are all coming from one origin, like original truth, and just saying it in their own way, regardless if you trust the Bible, this, that, or the other? So is there a balance between just taking the one source that seems to be the most trusted and then still going outside that?
You know, you tell a story 10 times, it's not the same story anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Plus, it was oral tradition for so long, so it's...
Yeah. So here's the story. God spoke to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai a few generations after the flood. Like Abraham knew Noah. Abraham was 58 years old when Noah died. He actually grieved for him. So Abraham knew Noah. He heard the story from him firsthand. Abraham's children knew the story from Abraham, who heard it from Noah. Abraham's great-great-grandchildren came out of Egypt and stood at Mount Sinai. And God comes down to Mount Sinai and says, there was a flood and everything got wiped out except for Noah. And the people said, yeah. Who doesn't know that? Because if they didn't know that story, they wouldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me what happened. My grandfather was there. No, it didn't happen. So God is telling them something that they already knew. That Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son Isaac. Which Jew didn't know that 3,000 years ago? They were all descendants of Isaac.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what happened to my grandfather, and nobody mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
So almost all of Genesis, the whole book of Genesis, the people at Mount Sinai already knew that they were slaves in Egypt. But you have to tell them that? They were the slaves. So what is the book of Genesis? The stories you heard from God's point of view. God saying, this is why I did this. This is my version of the story. Mm-hmm. We didn't know why God brought a flood. So God says, I'll tell you. You were really rotten to each other. So you were making life unlivable. So it was unlivable. Mm. Anyway, so the point of it is, we know the story from God's perspective. As you repeat it orally, it spreads throughout the world, and people kind of, was an apple, it wasn't an apple, the snake did do it, but
what if those, again, I don't have the fact checker next to me, but what if the times are misaligned? Like, what if these stories were sprouting either before or around the same time, where, like, for instance, like you hear these stories from across the world that are saying similar things, but it wasn't 100 years later after one story, it was all around the same time, where they couldn't have communicated. They couldn't have passed the story on.
That would be very mystical. No one ever told you, but you know that there was a flood?
Yeah. Oh, God, that was good. Okay, all right. Well, I do want to ask you one thing on topic, but a little small transition. So all this is talking about death, reincarnation, yada, yada. And you said something earlier in regards to, like, why fear death. So when you don't have an opportunity to get through to people, not that you're trying to get through to people, or explain your perspective, that someone is going through specifically grief, because you just brought up grief in regards to the Bible, but how do you find peace either in your personal life, or how do you express that to other people to not force them to not fear death? But when you lose someone, it's hard, it's painful, it sucks, and you're not just going to eliminate that. But what is the practice to find, at least take the step to find peace within that journey of losing someone? From your perspective, doesn't necessarily fear death, I don't believe, but other people that just don't have the same mindset. How do you get through to someone to offer them some peace during a grieving process?
The most important part, there was no accident. He didn't die in vain. That's the worst thing you can possibly do to a person. Your father died for no reason. Can't handle that. Our brains don't accept that. Because if that can happen for no reason, then anything can happen, anytime, for no reason, and life is just impossible. There is rhyme and reason. Nobody dies by accident. Nobody. Not even a minute before it was destined. And that's why you're not allowed to kill a terminally ill patient. Because every minute is part of the life plan, and you cannot shorten the life even by a minute. So there's no Well, first of all, there's no blaming yourself. Had I done something, had I got him to the doctor sooner, had the doctor come quicker, he would still be alive. No, no, no. Of course, you got to do whatever you can to help, save, treat. But when death happens, it's exactly when it was destined. And there are no mistakes. So no one ever died by accident. No one ever died from neglect. Those who neglected should feel guilty, because it's not nice. But you didn't kill the patient. That's how doctors survive. What do they do when they lose a patient on the table? How do they go back and do another surgery? They know, I can control illness, I can't control death.
Even when there's malpractice? That's just part of the... So it's just really this acceptance of, or again, if it correlates to beliefs, this is just... It's not saying it is what it is, but in a lighter way. It's just like, this is the plan, trust
Meant
it.
to be.
And so how do you consolidate that when, like if there's this plan, then what is the purpose when you do have those child losses? When a child is 1, 2, 3, 4, when there's just no chance for them to even live a life, that's just one of the most difficult things to get across from it. I mean, you're a parent, obviously, but how does that parlay with something like that? Like is the not dying in vain supposed to be an aftermath of how that death affects the lives that are still here? Like how does that justify, for lack of a better word, child death?
For sure. Life means having an effect. And you can have an effect after you die, even more than while you're alive.
Mm-hmm. I've said that, yeah.
It's a common thing. Mm-hmm. After a person passes away, they realize, oh, he's a great person. Then they start reading his books and they start quoting him. And while he was alive, nobody paid
the eulogy's always good. Meanwhile, that guy was a prick. So what are you guys talking about here? But, yeah.
In fact, the definition of the word bad, do bad things happen to good people? What's a bad thing?
We make it up.
Bad means, literally, we're not going to go into the whole...
Sure.
But when you use the word bad, you're saying it shouldn't have happened. There's death. Can't say it shouldn't happen. There's wrongful death. Oh, that's bad. Shouldn't have happened. Pregnancy, pains of pregnancy, shouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. False labor pains, oh, that's bad. Mm. An operation on a patient, painful, dangerous, bad? No, very good. Unless you're operating on the wrong patient.
Naturally.
Right? That's bad, right? Mm. Why is it bad? Oh, that shouldn't have happened. Mm. So the word bad doesn't mean painful. It doesn't even mean grief. Loss. Loss happens. Is it bad? Only if you think it shouldn't have happened. Do we know what should or shouldn't happen?
A lot of people believe so, yes.
But we don't.
I agree with that.
If you're 99 years old and you pass away peacefully in your bed, surrounded by your family, beautiful. Mm-hmm. But if you're 2 years old and get hit by a truck, oh, that shouldn't happen. By who's making these rules?
Yeah, it's that conversation is definitely a tough one. But I have a similar response to you when people say shouldn't. Even about my dad, oh, your dad shouldn't have died that day. There's people, and I understand where they're coming from, but also partially like, but whose measure? Like when we were brought into this world, who gave us a list of what should or shouldn't happen? Exactly. So it comes off as insensitive to many people. I understand where they're coming from, so I sometimes shut my mouth, especially in certain situations. And from my perspective, I'm like, what if things are happening just the way they should, whether we decide them as bad or good from our ego brain?
So, do bad things happen to good people? Bad things don't happen. Because bad means what shouldn't happen. Well, what shouldn't happen can't. If it's not God's plan, it can't happen.
So where does that fall into regards to the idea of who's going to heaven, who doesn't go to heaven, and like this whole bad and evil conversation, because I know people get really pissed off and then when we talk about that conversation of, oh, if they lived this horrible life, but they're still going to the same place I'm going. Is that what's the Jewish belief with that?
It's just a question of the transition. How painful and how long is the transition?
So that is like the correction period of you're going to feel what you got to feel based on how you live this life.
That's hell.
Got it.
Hell means the regret or the shame in the transition.
So you feel what you kind of did to this earth.
You feel all your failures, all your embarrassing. So hell is the process by which you get to heaven.
Interesting.
So the way to say it is, getting to heaven is hell.
And that's mostly for everyone, because obviously
Everyone.
but it's just depending on how painful it's going to be. Interesting. And does that correction process always work?
Yeah.
There's never been a one go, God, it slipped out and still did bad?
Hell does not exist in vain.
I hope not.
I mean, if you're beyond hope, you don't even go to hell.
Well,
You just stop.
they just cut you, so you got enough?
You're gone. You're not you anymore.
Where are you?
You're energy.
You just dissipate and no consciousness, you're just gone.
Right. You become generic energy.
So you can't do too bad on here where you just messed up. That was part of the plan.
Going to hell means there's something to save.
Someone's got to be tweaked.
Yeah, there's something to. So, bad things can't happen because if they're not meant to happen, then who made it happen? The devil? That's idol worship. So only what is meant to happen can happen because God makes it happen. If God didn't make it happen, then who did?
Now, is this your interpretation or this is what's taught?
This is the belief in God.
Right.
Basic 101,
Right.
belief in God. He's the only mover and shaker.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm just curious where it came from.
So where would a bad thing come from? The bad God.
Yeah, they did say there were maybe two. Yeah, you're right. You got me thinking, bud. I'll tell you that much.
So to put it in concrete terms, 6 million Jews were massacred, tortured, killed. Why? Because the Nazis wanted to? Oh, come on. Is that how cheap life is? 6 million people died because a couple of homicidal maniacs got loose. So on the one hand, they are murderers because they chose to kill. But nobody died without a divine reason. And the proof is, they wanted to kill every Jew. They didn't. So who decided who dies, who lives? Mengele? So even those who died in the Holocaust did not die because some nut went crazy. And they died exactly at the moment that they were supposed to die. But those who choose to do it, that's bad. They should not have chosen that.
But it's, at the same time, saying they should not have chosen that, but who's to say should? And that just goes, you're saying they should not have chosen that because they're going against God's will? So doesn't that make it bad? So
Yes.
So there is a should or shouldn't. Anything that shouldn't happen is
Right.
against God's will.
So the only thing that shouldn't happen is people's bad choices.
That's okay. So there is, okay. Well, who's to say what bad choices are if there's no definition of bad?
Right. The things God said no.
Okay. So we're back to the commandments, this, that, and the other. Right. So there is a should or shouldn't.
So if I decide to kill somebody.
When it comes to morals.
If I decide to kill somebody and I point the gun and I pull the trigger and I miss, am I a murderer?
Technically not, but you pretty much are.
Morally, yes.
Yeah.
Technically, we can't prove it. Mm-hmm. But you're a murderer. In God's eye, you're a murderer. Why? You did everything you could to kill somebody.
But can you say it's part of God's plan for that person to make that bad choice?
No. Bad choice means it was not God's plan.
Okay. Okay.
It was against God's plan.
Just teetering a little bit here.
But your choice is all you get to make.
Mm-hmm.
You can't pick a victim.
Yeah.
Just because you have freedom of choice doesn't mean someone has to die.
And just because you made some bad choice in this life doesn't mean you're not going to get another shot at it.
Depending on what those choices were.
And depending on how much you absorb and learn, then that
Yeah.
highway to
How
hell
much
to
good
heaven.
is left in you to salvage.
What did we miss? That we're almost at the end here. Did we miss anything? I mean, this could be a 4-hour conversation, but is there anything else you want to get off your chest? This is fascinating.
No, it's just that we should stop believing in death. Death is not the only sure thing in life. That's so bad. That's depressing right there. No, death is temporary. Not only is it temporary because the soul continues to live, but eventually all those souls will come back to their bodies. Resurrection is for all righteous souls. And they can't wait to come back into their bodies. Their bodies. Resurrected. Because the body deserves a lot of credit for all the good that they did in this world. Without the body, they couldn't do it. So the soul gets its reward in heaven. When does the body get its reward? Never? That's not nice. God is just. So if the body deserves a reward, God will reward it. By resurrecting it, put the soul back into the body. The combination that served God and did the mitzvah, the good deed, you did it together as a partnership, soul, body and soul. Come back as body and soul, and then you get your real reward. In heaven, it's just a partial, because the body's not there.
I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, God, I got to come back and do this again. That's the reward?
No, that's resurrection. Resurrection means after the world is perfect. And coming back is a reward.
Got it.
Reincarnation is when you come back to finish your job.
All right, well, there's still work to do.
So how close are we to finishing the job?
Are we leaving people on that?
We are very close, first of all, because we have an internet.
Interesting.
The ability to communicate with the whole world, indispensable.
Yeah.
Secondly, the world has basically become intolerant of war. We just don't want it. We can't justify it. So whoever wins a war is not going to be a hero. So you won the war. So what? In the olden days, no bigger hero than the guy who wins the war. We don't like that anymore. We're not like that anymore. Don't believe in war. Don't be a war hero, please. We don't want it. That's a big, big improvement over what used to be.
Yeah, I think maybe if you were to look at the trends and where the public support would be, right? But then it just continues to, it seems to not have any strain on the actual results of the big guys pressing the button and continuing on with that. It's like, at what point
It's doomed.
Yeah.
It's losing popularity. It's doomed. I think all immorality is doomed.
You think we're on an upward trend? Sometimes it doesn't seem like that, but I believe that too. Sometimes it's got to feel like it's getting a little worse before it gets better.
In other words, the evil is becoming less justified, less tolerable, more offensive, and therefore it's doomed.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a shift happening. I think it goes back to our beginning at the top of the conversation about that question, why? I think those are important questions because I think there's like a general consciousness shift that is brewing. It's hard to see sometimes through the muck.
Yep. So imagine if tomorrow morning, 8 billion people wake up and ask, what does God need from me? We would have a very nice world.
I love that. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. It's been a little bit of a long time coming, and I'm honored to be in New York with you, hear a little bit about you. I'd love to do this again sometime if you ever be open to it, because I know there's a lot more to talk about. But I'm grateful for your opportunity and spreading some wisdom on me and whoever's
You have a
listening.
studio in California?
Yeah, I record in a couple places in LA, sometimes my place. I have it set up in my place. And when I come back east from Jersey, where I'm from, it's fun for me. So anytime I have an opportunity to record an episode or two, I try to take it with people that I want to talk to. I'll talk to anyone for the most part, but I was very interested in hearing your story after what I saw you did online. And
you're still a Yankee?
still, yeah. Why, are you a Met fan?
Huh?
Are you a baseball fan?
Well, yeah, I lived in Minnesota for 50 years.
Are you a Twins fan?
I was.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Sorry, I didn't mean to say oh, God in that way.
Yeah. I thought Kirby Puckett was God.
Yeah, there you go. See? To each their own. It could be an intelligent molecule. It could be Kirby Puckett. It doesn't matter. It could be Derek Jeter for all I know. But for anyone listening, sorry, before we go on a tangent, I will plug all your socials, any links you want to give me so everyone can find you, because you do post some really informational, and you have an eclectic array of messages you send out, which is really cool. So if anyone wants to find you, click the link in the description. And
It's goodtoknow.org.
Goodtoknow.org.
It's good to know.
Oh, it's easy. Say it again for the camera.
It's good to know.
It's good to look in the camera and say it.
It's goodtoknow.org. Because it's good to know.
Piece of cake. All right, brother. I really appreciate you. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. And until next time, cheers. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.